Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name's Chris Calabucas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation startups, the future, not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I'd greatly appreciate it. Now, speaking of the future, as you can see, I am a Star Trek fan. And I heard the news the other day that Discovery was going to end with its last season. And as a Trekkie from a long time ago, or a Trekker, or a Star Trek fan, as you can say, I am actually happy about that. And I am happy about that because I was never a big fan of Discovery. And the reason I was not a big fan of Discovery had nothing to do with the fact that it's fairly woke. It has to do with the entire concept of the universe that they've built. Now, one of the key things, if you ask me, about Gene Roddenberry's universe, about the Star Trek universe, is that it portrayed an optimistic, post-scarcity society. A society where people don't have to scrimp and work really hard to get what they want. Everything is available to them. It's post-scarcity. Anyone can do anything anytime they want. Look at the Ian Banks culture series. There are post-scarcity societies. There's plenty of novels with post-scarcity societies in them where people can actually work on what's beyond it. So if you think about Maslow's pyramid, what's at the very top? Self-actualization. Everything else is provided for. You can get everything you wanted. And that's basically what happens. That was the original vision, is that we have passed beyond our petty differences. We've passed beyond our petty differences as races. We've passed beyond all of these petty differences. We've realized that human beings are human beings and they can work together as teams. And even with aliens who are not human beings, we have a presentment of an optimistic future where we're behind, or all of that stuff where everybody hates each other is behind us. We just see each other as assets, not liabilities. It's a positive future where everything is good. And sure, that's difficult from a dramatic tension perspective, but it can be done, because if you think about it, the future that's there's still human beings in these tales. And there's still drama between human beings. And like many critics have said, basically, we are not trying to present the future in the 24th, the 23rd, or the 40th, or the 33rd century, because we have no idea what human beings are going to be like. And if you ask me, human beings will not be like anything we've seen portrayed in that century. Because if you think about breeding and interbreeding between the races and things like that, we're going to look completely different in the 33rd century. We were not going to look like human beings. In fact, in that Discovery episode where they leap forward 900 years into the future, those 900 years in a society as advanced as that, who knows what human beings are going to look like? I doubt if they'll even look human in that kind of jump. In fact, we may not even look human by the 25th century or by the 22nd century. We may start not looking human by then. So I think there's a failure there. It's basically portraying actors from the 20th century and the 21st century as if they were in that future century, because we have no idea what those people are going to be like. And we have to make them look human and of today, because we would not be able to relate to somebody. In the same way, we can't go back 300 years and relate to somebody who was alive 300 years ago. We can't jump forward 300 years and relate to someone who will be alive 300 years from now. I doubt if we can do any of that. But the underlying vision of the original Star Trek was one of optimism. We've gone through all this hell. And at the end of going through all this hell, we have built a society that works, where people help each other, where people support each other, and nobody looks at the outside of a person and says, I'm not going to help you because you are X or Y or whatever. And technology has progressed. It's progressed to a point where we no longer have to worry about scarce resources. We can create new ones anytime we like. Look at a thing like a replicator. It takes resources that were useless and turns them into resources that are useful. It's alchemy. We can create gold anytime we want. We can create things of value anytime we want. We have unlimited energy supplies. That's the kind of world that we've built for ourselves. So in a post-scarcity society, everyone can do whatever they want. They can go exploring. They can go to temples. They can do whatever they want. In fact, it'd be interesting to know what will procreation be like. Will people still want to be married? Will people still want to have children? Who knows? If you live in a world where you can do anything you want for self-actualization, spend 5 years as an actual male and spend 5 years as an actual female, or as a completely different race, or as a pseudopod, or as a frog, anytime you want, and then back up your entire psyche into a backup so that if your body dies, you can always recreate a new one. Human beings, are we even going to be like that anymore? Anyway, so what I was trying to say is that the problem with Discovery is that it was a dark vision of the future. It was a really negative vision of the future. And sure, there will be negative things in the future. I'm not saying that it's all going to be unicorns and rainbows. There will be negative things in the future. If we do, there will be other races that don't agree with what we're doing. There will be other peoples, other species that don't agree with what we're doing. There'll be complications. There'll be drama. There'll be all sorts of that things. But the underlying message was that we can prevail over these things. We can beat these things. We have the ability through human ingenuity to solve the problem. And if you think about the original Star Trek, many of the problems that we had during the time when it was happening in the 60s, when it was written in the 60s, many of the problems that it presented, that it was talking about in those times, were behind us. We solved it. Things may have been in turmoil, but Star Trek presented an optimistic vision of the future where everything was solved, showing that human beings, we can do it. We can absolutely do it. So we shouldn't feel so bad or so depressed because we have figured a way out of this. And that's what's happening with these new series, is that they focus on the fact that we have the ingenuity to figure out anything that's negative can be presented as negative, but we're able to solve the problem. We're able to come together and figure this out for the good of everyone. So that's the problem with Discovery. Discovery never had that optimistic vision of the future. It was first launched in the time of Trump, so there was a lot of stuff going on at the time which was overly negative and overly pessimistic about the future. But if you think about it, you're not making something for today, you're making something for tomorrow. You're making something, because if you think about it, the original Star Trek actually drove so many people into sociology to try and improve the lot of humans. It drove people into technology to improve the lot of humans. It gave people an optimistic vision so that they could improve their lives and improve other people's lives based on a future that was brighter than the past, than today. And I think human beings, we need that vision. We need a vision of a better future. And when we get that vision of a better future, we latch onto that vision of a better future and we go, we can build that. Because I said this before, is that predicting the future, concepting the future, coming up with the future, imagining the future, builds the future. Because even if something that I imagine today, something amazingly wonderful, some amazing wonderful thing that cannot be built today, is imagined today, does not mean that my children or my children's children or somebody else's children's children in the future couldn't come up with that when the technologies and the people evolve to allow us to do that. So when we come up with new things, when we envision new things, when we innovate, when we create new stuff and throw it out into the world, we are creating it. Because at some point in the future, it may just, right now it's not just an idea. It's just a thought. It's a blog post. It's a listing. It's a concept. But tomorrow, you, your kids, or somebody else could turn it into reality. And this is why we need to continue coming up with solutions, even if we can't build them today. Even if we can't build them today, we should be envisioning a better future for humanity and how we can get to that better future. Because when we create, when we imagine the future, when we imagine an optimistic future, when we imagine the artifacts of an optimistic future, we create that future. Now we just need to bring it into existence. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.